Welcome back to Make Good Choices Monday. I'm Becky Amio, and if you guys are interested in seeing how and why I tie a leg up on a horse, stick around. I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to demonstrate it for you. Stay tuned. Okay, first off, I'm going to start with a disclaimer. This is not something to be taken lightly. This is not a training tip. This is a demonstration. This is a demonstration of what I do to get these colts started, get them safe, and get them accepting of what I do to them, okay? That's why this isn't on Training Tip Tuesday. This is on Making Good Choices Monday because I have made some poor choices while doing this technique, and I've had a wreck, okay? So I would recommend if you were to try this, have a professional available to help you out of the situation if you get into a wreck, because wrecks will happen. You can either downregulate one or you can traumatize the heck out of it doing this. And you have to have timing, you have to have feel, you have to be able to observe when the horse has accepted what you're doing to them, okay? And we're gonna find out in a hurry whether that horse is a flight, fight, or freeze type animal when we put them in this situation, okay? We're gonna find out if this horse has been lying to us this whole time. Because after we work through our balance and our mental and emotional and physical fitness in these horses, the bottom line is groundwork is just a series of lie detector tests to see what they're going to do under pressure. And so this is just another technique to find out what that horse is going to do under pressure, okay? Now, I have used this technique in the beginning of my groundwork, in the middle of my groundwork, and at the end of my groundwork. I have found that at least 75% of horses that I do this with are going to be the flee type horses. They're going to be the ones that try to want to run away. They try to panic. And we have to work through that emotional and mental state to help them understand that they have to accept when we take a foot away, okay? Then there's a small percentage that fight. And those are really, really tough for people to understand. And as another general rule, the Hancock Blue Valentine horses that I work with, they're more of the fighting type. And that's why I think a lot of people don't get along with them. And I've been able to get along with them because when an animal fights with me, I can only fight so much back, right? I have to go at it with a little bit more finesse because I can't muscle my way through a situation. And this is one of those instances. And so I have to approach it differently. And then there's the type that is inconsolable, scared, and frantic over the situation. And generally up to that point, I know who those horses are going to be. And I have read a horse wrong in this situation on one that had a severe flight instinct. And it was so bad that she threw herself to the ground by overreaching with a hind leg and getting it stuck through her hobble on the front. And that was a wreck. Not gonna lie, I screwed up that horse. And, and I always look back to that horse and think about what I could have done different, okay? So you stand a pretty good chance of wrecking one for life, okay? And I'm talking mental, emotionally, never trusting a human again. I'm talking internal upset, ulcers, off of feed, not happy with me at all, not happy with training, not happy in my corral circumstances down there. So I say this disclaimer not lightly. You really think about, what your possible outcomes could be in this situation, and you better know how to handle it when you have that situation arise, because it will happen. It's not a matter when you work on numbers like I have. It's not a matter of when, it's a matter of how bad it will be, okay? When you take a foot away from a horse, it changes them. Mentally and emotionally, it changes them. And if you do it properly, you're teaching them to accept their circumstances, because horses live in the moment. They live in right now. You know, this is their cage, this is their chain, this is their confinement, and you take away their ability to flee. Now, we're not changing the hard wiring on this horse, okay? On any horse. We're not going to change the hard wiring. Some horses are easygoing, some are high strung, some have a fight disposition to them, some, you know, don't really care, you know, all the gamuts. I'm sure all of us that have watched my videos, we all have had, or we have some extreme one way or another of what our horse is like. And when we do these tests, we're not trying to change the hardwiring. We're never going to change the hardwiring. We're never going to change the instincts. What we're trying to change is the response. We're trying to sensitize them to a response, okay? A specific response when they get themselves in trouble, and accept us as helping them. So this is a very vulnerable situation for them. And we have to respect that vulnerability, okay? Not to anthropomorphize the situation, but we have to accept them in this very vulnerable situation. That's why we don't thump on them, we don't beat on them, we don't poke them in the eye, we don't, you know, we don't do things to be mean to them or that they perceive as painful or hurting. We do things to them to show them, hey, it's okay. You know, everything's going to be okay. What I do with you is going to be okay. And, you know, there's so many pros to doing this particular type of technique. And the number one thing that I'm looking for is response. I want to see how they're going to react when they're put in a stressful situation, when they're put under pressure. I want to know that they're going to be able to handle it. Just like your spouse or your best friend or somebody who you choose to be in your life, you want to know how they're going to act when you guys have a flat tire on the side of the road and there's no cell service, okay? You want to know how they're going to react when your house burns down. You want to know, I mean, I hate to be extreme, but truly, you know, do you want to be with somebody who is going to say, hey, you know what, it's going to be okay, we're going to keep moving forward, we're going to get through this? Or do you want to be with somebody who absolutely falls apart when the pressure is on? Because when I get up on an animal that has their own brain and they've got 4 legs and they have the ability to make good and bad choices, I want to know that they're going to have some self-preservation and make a good choice, okay? So that's why I'm doing this stuff. So that's what's most important to me, okay? The absolute most important thing right there. Another pro for doing this: horses will get themselves stuck in a situation at one point or another. It's just the reality of owning horses. They will get themselves stuck in their corral. They will get themselves stuck in wire. They will get themselves stuck in a panel. They will get themselves stuck in a lead rope. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We don't want them to panic when they're in that situation. We want them to stop and wait for us to come help them, okay? And I have it happen to me here on the ranch. I've had it happen to me twice just in the last 3 weeks. There's a fence that kind of blew down a little bit. It's a little tiny wire fence out in the pasture it's usually hot, but it's not right now. And it blew down in some wind, some really rough wind that we had. Didn't realize that it had blown down, and I rode right into it. And it's a little teeny wire, so you don't see it, and it's just a fine, thin wire, not barbed wire. And I've had 2 different horses now get stuck on a hind leg with it, and both of them just stopped, and they froze. And they waited for me to get off and help them and pick a leg up and get them out of the wire. And man, that could have been a wreck, that could have been a disaster. And so, that is another reason why we need to do this with them. A third reason, we need to be able to hobble these horses. We need to be able to tie their legs together and let them graze. Whether they're on the ranch, whether we're trail riding, whether we're packing and enjoying our horses on the trail in the mountains, we need to be able to hobble them and have them stay in one place. If you just do it old school and throw a set of hobbles on them, you will have a wreck. Sometimes they throw themselves down on the ground, and they could hurt themselves throwing themselves down on the ground. Sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't, but you want to set them up to have a good experience, okay? And this is the way you train it, okay? If you need a doctor on one, you can take a leg away. If you need to teach one to hold its leg up and balance themselves, you can take a leg away. If you need to clip one, if you need to saddle one, you can take a leg away. There are times where I'm struggling getting a saddle up on a horse. And here's the thing about taking a leg away. It doesn't stop them from doing something really stupid. It doesn't stop them from the ability to jump away from you and kick you. It doesn't stop that, but it slows them down. They are so much faster than us. And this is where we really need to have respect for the horse. They are so much faster than us. We will never be at that level, no matter how much we work out, what our level of fitness is, what we eat. We will never be at their speed as quick as they are. So taking a leg away slows them down just a touch and gives us a chance, okay? And if I have one that just doesn't understand that I'm going to be throwing a saddle up on his back, they don't understand that the saddle pad and the saddle aren't scary, or aren't going to hurt them. I'm sure they're scary to them, but I want them to understand it's not going to hurt them. I will take a leg away, okay? So it allows me to do all these things around them. The climbing up on them from a bucket, it teaches them to stand still, okay? It puts a hard whoa on them, a really hard whoa. When I say whoa, they stop now. It teaches them balance. So we have all of these things, and I could go on and on that taking a leg away does for a horse, for their mental and emotional ability. But when you have one and you have to be able to read what kind of horse that you have, do you have an overreactive speed-bred horse? Do you have an overreactive Arabian? Do you have an overreactive pony? I mean, the list can go on and on here. Again, you have to know how to help yourself out of that situation. When you go into it, you've got to be ready to go to the mattresses with it. You've got to be ready to spend the day with that horse and do whatever it takes to get that horse in a better emotional and mental state than when you started. And if you're not committed to do that, you don't need to be doing it, okay? You don't go there with it, and because it takes a certain level of commitment to do what I'm about to show you, okay? And, when people say, oh, you must really love what you do. Yes, I love what I do. But it takes a certain level of commitment to teach these horses these techniques and take them to this level of mental and emotional awareness that physically we can restrain them and they are going to be okay when it's all done. And we have to be able to show them that it's going to be okay, all right? So that's my disclaimer, you guys. Let's get into the video and I'm going to show you what I do, all right? Okay, so this is Top Gun's two-step. This is my personal 2-year-old gelding, and he's been in quite a few videos lately. He was in a video as a weanling during groundwork, and he's been in several training videos, and tomorrow's video will even be about him as well. Now, obviously, I've already been able to put a saddle pad on him, a saddle, a surcingle, and right now I'm putting a cuff on his leg, okay? And he stomp and flies a little bit here. Now, there are some horses here that I can't get that surcingle on them yet. I can't get this cuff on their leg. And that's an entirely other video. But in this case, we already have a horse that's fairly gentle. He's already worn most of this equipment. I've trimmed his feet, and I go ahead and take that leg away. I clip it by a heavy duty bolt snap from this cuff up to this heavy duty surcingle. This is not a surcingle you're going to find in a regular tack store or tack catalog. This is a custom made deal. So I unclip his lead rope and I get the heck out of there. And I take a flag and I flag him around and I send him. And they panic here just a little bit. I don't go super crazy hard just because they will hit themselves. They will hit themselves with the foot that's in the air, that's hobbled up. They can hit themselves in the knee. And they can reach forward with those hind legs and catch themselves. So I try not to push too terribly hard at this. It depends on each individual, okay? So I'm going to push him around here a little bit. We have a saying around here that even when you think they're tired, they're not really tired and they need to keep going. And so you have to set emotion aside and pay attention to the job at hand. Watch for the acceptance and see right here, I asked for a hard whoa. And he kept going a few steps. And now he's choosing to step away from me instead of just stand there. So I go ahead and send him again. This is how they stand so still when I ask for that whoa, when I'm giving them a job. This is how they'll stand so still for me. Because when you put them back to work after you've asked them to stop and they start to get tired, they're a little bit more inclined to stop for you and stand there. And you just have to keep on driving them. Keep driving, keep driving. And then when I ask for the hard whoa, you can see my body language and I tell him whoa very loud. Now, I'm going to go up to him here and see how he shudders there at me and see how he kind of puts his weight back on his hind end and he's thinking about getting out of there. Now, that's a hole, isn't it? That's our lie detector test right there, you guys. 100%, that was the lie detector test. When he shuddered and was scared of me walking up to him. This is why I say, when we walk up to them, they're in this vulnerable place. They have to know that I'm not going to hurt him. I'm just going to go up and pet and rub on him, all right? So that was number one right there. That's the body language that we're looking for. That's the timing that we're looking for. I walk up to him again. I am very aggressive when I walk up to them. Okay? And I'm not going to lie. I go in aggressively, assertively. Now, we all know that there are certain ways you should approach horses. We all know that there's a better angle to go at a horse with. But here's the thing. Anybody who gets this horse, that's buying this horse because he's user-friendly, because he's good with kids, because he's good with a senior citizen, they're getting him because he doesn't care about how you approach them, okay? He doesn't care that when you approach him, he's not going to be scared, okay? Does that make sense? So he's got to know that whatever angle I come from, we got a really good looking shoe right there. Did you see that? He's got to know that whatever angle I come from, I'm just going to come up and pet and rub on him. Doesn't matter how quickly I come up to him, how aggressively I come up to him, whatever angle from behind, from in front of him, it's all to come and pet on him and take care of him. Little kids are going to run up to him at some point in his life. Somebody may meekly come up to him. Somebody may come up to him at a wrong angle. And he's got to be okay with all of that. So I'm very aggressive about how I approach a horse when I'm teaching this. I don't sneak around one. Sneaky people, sneaky quiet people make scared horses. And loud, obnoxious people make quiet horses, okay? So we're starting to work through that initial wave of emotion now, aren't we? We're starting to get somebody who understands that this might just be his job for the rest of his life. He's accepting all the petting and rubbing I'm doing on him, and he's sending out a whole lot better now. He gets it. He gets what his job is. He's a lot quieter now. There's a little less panic, but we still have the same leg up, and we still need to change legs here too, okay? I put another hard whoa on him, and I go and approach, and this time I go straight to the hind end. In the wild, the first thing that's attacked on an animal and eaten is going to be the hind end. That's why horses grab their butt and scoot. They're protecting their hind end. So I go to his hind end first that time. And look, I've read this horse, okay? I know he's not going to kick me. He's not going to double barrel me. Don't just randomly go up to something in the hind end, okay? I can't, put that disclaimer out there enough. We've had this guy now since he was like 4.5 months old. He's never offered to kick, buck, whatever, point his hind end at me. I feel pretty darn safe walking right up to his hind end. But now he's in a vulnerable position, and I have that leg taken away from him, and that's why I went straight to his hind end like I did, okay? But still, lots of petting, lots of rubbing. You guys see me do all this kind of petting on them and rubbing on them when I dismount them, when I'm up in the tack, when I'm getting on them. You guys have seen this over and over and over again, and I'm always touching my horse. So he leans back a little bit as I'm trying to take the cuff off of him, and it doesn't really give me a chance. I gotta get some weight off of this snap as I undo it and let it down. And then we get a good looking chew when I put it down. He wants to stand there. He wants to cock a hind foot. He's really okay with the whole situation, all right? And I just keep on rubbing and petting on him. Now, I'm going to take this cuff off. I'm going to put it on the other foot. Now, had this horse not be as gentle as he is and want to stand there with me, I'd go back and I'd put a lead rope on him if he were somebody else. But because of who he is, I'm able to just go around the other side, put the cuff on, and tie this leg up now. So I get the cuff on this front right leg, and I'm going to buckle it up. And as soon as I get it connected, I'm going to get out of there, okay? Because you never know how they're going to react. And they could jump forward, they could jump sideways, you just never know. So get out of there quickly, all right? I'm going to send him again. Clearly, he's not as coordinated this direction as he was the other way. And we want to work on that. So we're going to spend a little time going this direction and having this other foot taken away. This is something that we'll see in these horses is, just like I've talked about in all the other training videos, is you're going to have a certain reaction going one direction. And in this case, he was clearly had more freedom of movement going the other direction than he does this way. He's also getting tired, okay? But we need to teach it on both legs, okay? Because you never know what leg may be getting restrained at some point in his life. And he has to understand to relax and wait. Another thing about walking up to them so aggressively when I do put that whoa on them is if they're laying down and they're stuck somewhere, you're not going to gingerly walk up to them, right? You're going to walk up probably pretty aggressively to figure out what the heck's wrong. And so we want them to be okay with us coming up to them at all times. And now I've got him kind of up against the rail here, and I come around to the side here. This is not the safest place to be because if he loses his balance and he jumps into you, he's going to go into you and you're going to be pinned up against the rail. So keep that in mind. Be aware of your position and aware of your surroundings, all right? I'm still trying to keep him going this direction. And this is about building confidence too. He has to have the confidence to go both directions in this manner. So I'm going to keep on sending him around. And the horse that I told you guys about that I had a wreck with, I had taken this leg away from her, and she immediately panicked and jumped forward 2 strides, came forward with a hind leg and stuck it up in to the inside of this cuff, and the next jump she went straight down to the ground. And it was probably the best thing for her to down regulate, so to speak, to take her feet away from her, but the entire situation was too traumatic for her. Like, I just never could bring her back. So that's why we have to be so careful when we're doing things like this with these horses, and be able to evaluate the temperament and the disposition that we're working with. I put another hard whoa on him. I go to his hind end, start petting there first. You know, we have to establish a relationship with this hind end, because when we're up in the tack, we're going to reach around, we're going to pet on it. We have to let them know that we're there. We want them to know that they've been worked with. We want them to know that we're there. And I go to walk away for a second, and he kind of steps away on his own. So I go ahead and send him again, and he's like, oh, wait, you know, maybe I didn't want to go. And so I go back and I approach him again, and he's starting to get pretty winded. I drop my flag, and I pet and rub on him all over. He's starting to lose his balance here. He's going to end up going down on a knee on me if I don't let him up pretty soon, if I don't take that hobble off here pretty quick. So I'm going to try to get as much more as I can out of him with the approaching him, petting him from all sides. But we've got a little bit better-minded colt now from what we were dealing with in the beginning, don't you think? From that very first time I approached, and he panicked a little bit and kind of rocked back on his hind end and was a little worried. Now he's confident, he's brave, he knows what's coming. I'm going to go ahead and take this snap off, let him have his leg back. Nice, good looking chew. He cocks his leg. I go back, I walk away, and I come back to him several times and make sure that he accepts me coming at him hard and fast and petting on him. Okay, this is how we make a good one. This is how I make a good one that's user-friendly, that's accepting of everything that I do with it. And he chooses to walk with me. He's forgiven me. He's already let go of what I did with him. He's saying thank you for releasing me from that. I take this cuff off. And that's it. That's what tying a leg up looks like on one of my horses. That's how I do it. I hope you guys make good choices and have a great rest of your